Welcome back, everybody. Last session, and yeah, good opportunity for us to cover anything that you wanted covered that hasn't been covered. So we've certainly allocated a fair bit of time just for general trips down whatever rabbit hole you send us, and we'll chat about those things. I might bring up photos or slides or the like, or you might just decide you want to put your hand up and talk to a topic or the like, and we encourage that. We've allocated some time in this session just in case there's anything like that comes up. The other thing I was going to say is I hope you're well progressed in your safe system assessment, and if you have any questions that you'd like to ask now that you think the whole group might benefit from, that's a really good point to do that, because odds on, if you're having a little bit of trouble with something in your mind, others are going to be having that trouble as well. So I would really like to talk to the whole group about that. But if you do want to just talk about it one-on-one, yeah, happy to organise a Zoom catch-up, a call, or if you're in the general sort of area, we could probably even organise to come out and meet you on site if you're in the general Victorian area. But let's start with a Zoom call. Okay. Before I jump into some slides then, Kathy, I think there's a few things that look like they're coming in. I just wanted to see if there's something for me to talk to earlier.
You're not going to fly to New Zealand? I'm not sure where the bubble's at the moment, but probably not. No, actually, Joel, Ken might be keen on a trip to New Zealand. We talk about reducing exposure, but what about if we're increasing it by encouraging cyclists to a route, but not reducing other modes?
Yeah. No, in a safe system assessment, if you believe, so as you're probably seeing with the exposure, there are these bands, scoring bands, and so you'd have to be confident it's enough to jump it up a full band in terms of increasing the number of cyclists that are going to go there. But in theory, that is something we would want to be aware of, because if you are encouraging cyclists to a route that has inherent risk by, I don't know, signs pointing to it, the marking of a bike lane, even though it's a high speed road or something like that, or or the like, then we should reflect that in the safe system assessment score. And playing that out, it just further will enhance the importance of us actually doing something about that, something meaningful that will improve cyclist safety. So yeah, you do allocate it. So the other thing, generally in a safe system assessment, what we like to do is do a like for like comparison, and then you can do like a whatever modeling projections there are, 10-year, 25-year, and you'd score that, and you'd ramp it up in both areas. So what I'm trying to say is you want to do some like-for-like comparison, but some real-world like-for-like. So it'd have to be sort of like immediate latent demand for cycling activity, rather than comparing the existing conditions now, one design, as soon as it's built, and one design in 25 years when all the residential subdivisions are all built and all these all these things have occurred. So just make sure you're comparing sort of like for like.
Okay, interesting. What if the route is surrounded by a principal cycle network?
Surrounded by principal cycle network, well, I would encourage, then there are these sort of general planning discussions to be had, and you can sort of allude to those in your safe system assessments. But if you've got a designated principal cycle network running along parallel to your route, I mean, and it's I would be doing more to encourage them onto the principal cycle network, and assuming it's got better infrastructure, better safety. Yeah, I have this sort of belief that we can't provide facilities for cyclists on every road. Likewise, we can't provide facilities for cars on every road. So let's make that really good for these modes of usage. But it gets murky and complicated.
Would you include e-scooters in the cycle numbers as well?
No, I would either put e-scooters into an other category and give them their own entity, or pedestrians. Yeah, but probably other, just because they're the characteristics are quite different from pedestrians, obviously. But there's this sort of general categorization of skateboards, mobility devices, the gophers, wheelchairs, and then you're starting to get into the scooters, and then e-scooters are starting to push it because they can kick along, but they can have their own category. But what can be fun to do, is say your city is considering an e-scooter trial, is to safe system assess e-scooter trials for your whole for your network, and then every category you make e-scooter the key variable. So you have run off road for e-scooters, head on for e-scooters. You have and then other can be whatever you decide it to be. E-scooters hitting pedestrians, e-scooters hitting cyclists, e-scooters hitting motorcyclists, and admittedly, some of these scores are going to be very, very low. E-scooters versus motorcycles probably going to be a fairly low exposure score there, but nonetheless, you're thinking about it. So it's kind of fun. It's an amazing safe system. Amazing safe system assessment with a team of the windscreen buskers, the people who rock up at your car at an intersection and want to wash your windscreen for money. So we did a safe system assessment of them in Canberra and across the city. So the sites that they wash them at, and then the full safe system, sort of a system thinking of it, including the infrastructure, the vehicles, the speeds, the people, and what their behaviours were, and their levels of alertness and compliance with different things. And it was awesome. Anyway, so the reason I say that is the versatility of the safe system assessment framework is pretty big, and it's fun.
Sounds like it, and I like the idea of doing a whole safe system assessment just on e-scooters, and that I think might answer another question that's come through. Is that changing with micro-mobility being faster and heavier these days? So
there's probably a few people in the group who are grappling with these issues on a day-to-day basis and have some really good answers. So feel free to type some answers in, or put some links to documents, or even put your hand up and we can have a chat about it, get your insights. But the safe system assessment framework is a risk assessment methodology, right? So you can use it for these different purposes. I mean, it 99% of the time these days it's being used because there's a infrastructure project and you want to assess, what else can be done or how can it be improved. But not to say it can't be done in these wider, more agile ways.
A quick one. Do you have a capital city that in Australia or New Zealand, I guess, that you think is best for active transport infrastructure? Anywhere stand out for you?
Bits of a lot of cities, and there are probably lots of areas I've never seen. I don't know. Everybody write into the chat which you think are the best ones. I'd probably have to say, Melbourne, obviously. But no, there's some bits of Melbourne that are great. There's some of the aspects of Sydney I like. I like Christchurch. Part of the stuff in the rebuild was amazing. What was done there. Brisbane's got some cool stuff going on. I haven't checked out Canberra of late, but I know there was a lot of investment and work going on there. Amsterdam, definitely. Whoever wrote that in, I bet that doesn't quite get us in the city. In Australia,
I think
Joel's called you out. Joel says that's just cheating. Go to the Netherlands is just cheating. Anyway, lots of good things covered in. All right. Well, yeah, I haven't been over to Perth for a while now. I've got to get back over and see what things have ticked along. All right, let me pop on some slides for now, and we'll come back to questions in a bit. But feel free to pop your hand up and speak if you want. Keep stuff coming in the chat, and we're into this last session, which is amazing. I don't know where the time's gone. This group's been fantastic. Okay, Kathy, you can see my slides, I hope.
Yep, all good.
Okay, so our last module, module 6. So module 5 is actually you just doing that assessment, safe system assessment, which you're out there hopefully doing and scheduling time to get out onto the site. Remember, you're going to the site to get a feel for how it operates, what's going on out there, things you might not pick up from a street view. So you want to spend a little bit of time there just observing it. And remember, this is a training exercise. So in a real safe system assessment, you'd spend longer there. You might go there multiple times during different times of different activity, maybe when school ends, or maybe at peak time, or maybe on a Friday night or something, just to try to get that holistic view of everything that's going on. But for the purposes of this one, we want you to go to the site so you can, hopefully, it reinforces that seeing things live still is the best way to get a feel for how things are working and the site. And it sort of ticks that box for us that you know the process. The process is to go to site, at least for that full safe system assessment. I'll talk you through this shortly. And then work on the matrix and refer back to those module 2 slides, especially module 1 and module 2 slides, especially thinking about those energies and relating it back to some of the biomechanics of injury, some of those graphs and those figures that we put in there, and making sure you refer to the Ostroad scoring reference sheet for exposure, really thinking about the numbers of pedestrians, the numbers of cyclists, the numbers of vehicles, to correlate that back to an exposure score. So this module is all about sort of policy guidance. What's happening with these safe system assessment things? So now you're across what a safe system assessment is, and how to do one, hopefully, and you're doing one. And I'm going to show you a little bit about how they're playing out in Australia and New Zealand at a policy level, some of the things that we want to maybe improve a little bit. And anyway, so we're going to try to get you to understand some of the benefits of the safe system assessment. I think from just going through the process of doing it, you're probably identifying this could be really beneficial in a whole lot of ways. But I'll show you some actual evaluations that were done of safe system assessments and some of the benefits that are shown. So we're going to just talk through more of the process of a safe system assessment within an infrastructure project, and talk a bit about that difference between safe system assessments and road safety audits. And road safety audits being that very well-known independent review of a project to try to ensure we get the safest outcomes as well. So there's obviously overlap. I'm gonna spend a little bit of time on this graph, and apologize if I do spend a fair bit of time on it, but it tells an amazing story in my mind. So this is a graph that shows the evaluation of 35 projects that were sorry, trying to draw on my screen and it's not working. Hang on a second. There we go. So 35 projects. Now these, I should clarify a little bit. These projects are massive, right? These were, these were $100 million plus projects, basically, that were being subject to safe system assessments in their development phase. So we're talking massive town bypasses, big duplication projects, extensions of freeways or widening of freeways, these sorts of styles of projects. So what we saw there is using, so this was an independent evaluation done that used a crash prediction model and predicted if no project was going to happen. Okay, so the idea being that, okay, they're obviously looking at this area, they're going to do something, but if they don't, over the next 20 years, how many crashes does the prediction model say will occur? And with no project, they were saying 7,900 serious injuries and 344 fatalities on these bits of road, or the road that people are going to take if that new bypass isn't built. And so they factored in here predicted traffic growth and all of that sort of stuff as well. The original design, the design that was produced out of the big design houses, run-of-the-mill designs, following all the Austroads guides and the state guidelines and standards and everything like that, improved road safety and brought the figures down to serious injuries, 6,700, and 286 fatalities if they are built as the original designs were proposed. So a safe system assessment was then done on these original designs. And what it suggested was, so the evaluators took the recommendations of the safe system assessment and picked the ones that were believed to be the highest alignment with safe system principles within a, I suppose they said, was a reasonable but stretched, pushing. So yes, there's political commitment required, there was funding required and things like that, but anyway, it brought the numbers down to 3,890 serious injuries, 167 fatalities, if the high safe system alignment after the safe system assessment was adopted. So basically taking the recommendations of the safe system assessment. What was actually adopted on each of these projects brought the numbers down, or they went up from this, but to 5,298 and 227 deaths predicted over the 20 years. Now, this tells quite a story to me, and it tells a story in a number of ways, and I'm going to quickly go through it. The first thing it tells me is that difference there is the road safety improvement we get from large projects when they're just designed run of the mill. So we can't argue that they're not improving safety. I mean, you want to look at it on an individual basis, but over these 35. there is an improvement in road safety. And this is what we often, we find that major infrastructure providers are often saying, well, yeah, it improves. We're improving road safety. And you can't say to them, no, you're not. It's just saying we can do a lot more. And if we're going to spend, $500 million or $1 billion, can we have can we really see if we can maximize this? The difference between this and this, to me, is what can be done if we push. The difference between this and this is complex, but to me that is a whole combination of political acceptance, industry culture. People don't like changing the way they've designed things for many years. We've got the standards and guidelines holding us back, so they just say, well, that's what the standards are. I'm not willing to deviate from the standards or the guidelines. We've got cost may be an issue. Other project challenges may come into it. So that's why it goes back up to here. But what this to this though, that is our immediate straight away win of just going through the process of doing a safe system assessment and handing that back. I mean, there's that much there for the picking in terms of safety benefit. So there's an immediate, obvious advantage of doing safe system assessments, just making them mandatory in infrastructure projects, of different scales. Because these people are, yes, they're trying to do the safest thing possible within what they know, but also the guidelines and standards and what will be acceptable in their mind. But if you push them, if they get pushed, well, they can get a lot more out of that. The other really interesting thing about this to me is this. Okay. We established at the start of this course, the safe system is about trying to eliminate death and serious injury on the road network. Yet even the highest safe system alignment has this big amount of trauma. And it's what we tend to refer to as the residual. And this is a combination of things. The big one is, this is dealing with issues that we don't have a solution for at the moment. So we need innovation, we need new ideas, we need changed practices. But this is taking into account a whole lot of things that happen out there. So the prediction models used are quite sophisticated in that sense. But this is taking into account all those extreme behaviors that we talked about are not the major cause of serious and fatal crashes on the road network, but they're pretty significant cause. And so we're saying that, even what we're saying with the high safe system alignment here, it is not catering for the 180 kilometre per hour vehicle through, the suburbs or whatever it is, the iced up motorcyclist, whatever these sort of scenarios are playing out, it's saying, well, we haven't dealt with them with what you're putting forward in your safe system assessment. There's also, I suppose, a little bit of an acknowledgement within that of acceptance at the time. So even the safe system assessments aren't putting on the table things like making the Hume freeway 50 kilometres per hour between Melbourne and Sydney, which, yes, will get us better alignment with safe system principles and bring this way down, hypothetically. But, you go through your movement of place context and everything like that in a safe system assessment, and you realise that ain't gonna cut it. So it's really to say that we need to continue to work and invest and think about new ideas, new ways of treating things. We need vehicle technology to be, really progressing and the like. But anyway, I think that's an important thing to acknowledge. I think that is amazing that we can get that much more. The other thing that I should mention is that these original designs, of the 35, I think it was 33 of them had been the subject of road safety audits, and they made the changes that the auditors, they've been through that process. So even that, like when people say, oh, road safety, I've just done a road safety audit, so why would I do this safe system assessment? Well, that's why you do it. Any questions on that? I don't know whether people are as fascinated with these sort of insights as I am. I continue to look at this and be amazed.
It is pretty amazing, Kim. Sorry, there's a bit of coffee that went down the wrong way, just to ruin that moment. How do you calculate those numbers? Is there a software model?
Yeah, so this was done by Blair Turner when he was at ARB, Australian Road Research Board, and they used ANRAM, the Australian National Risk Assessment Model, but as a base for this, and then changed the variables, which has a crash prediction. So you could use IRAP. IRAP's my preferred one these days on this, which gives you fatal serious injury predictions of different scenarios, and you basically can plug in the different infrastructure you've got, and it spits it out. Where it did take a bit of sort of Blair Turner style smarts was to integrate some of the non-infrastructure related features that the safe system assessment suggested. So enforcement things, and how do you attribute that to a specific area? And it is complicated. And like any sort of evaluation of something over a 20-year period with lots of assumptions, but that's sort of how they derived it. There is a report. There is an evaluation report available. I don't know if it's publicly available, but we can certainly send it out if people have that specific desire to have a read of it, or use it within your organisation to encourage people to do safe system assessment.
There's a comment here about those types of reckless behaviours are actually excluded from TMR Queensland Road Safety Policy.
Yeah, okay. I read the policy. I can't remember that aspect of it. I was reading it with a specific lens in mind. But I mean, I can understand why a jurisdiction would go down that approach to say, well, we're a road authority, we're a road manager, and really there's only limitations to what we can do with the infrastructure, and that has to be dealt with somewhere else. We can't build it for this sort of stuff, but we do want to encourage a highly system thinking view of road trauma. So I sort of discourage that attitude of quarantining bits of like that's somebody else's to deal with. Yes, you may not actually within your realm of your scope of influence actually be able to do a huge amount, but I really do encourage the thinking and the collaboration and trying to think of that whole systems approach to this, not just these isolated silos of, oh well, we do the roads, so that's it. But let's try and think of that interaction between all those elements.
That's a really good point. Thank you, Ken. I think that's it. It was in the footnote, so you might not have got to the footnote of the policy.
Okay. I'll show the policy in a minute, but not the details of it, just the front cover. So here's just a few of the benefits of a safe system assessment. I took this straight out of a Victorian government guideline document. Great way to determine how well a project aligns with safe system principles. So that that one is so good because when I was working away at Vic Roads and I was manager of planning in one of the regions after spending a long time in road safety department in other areas doing lots of road safety projects and the like. But I was just amazed by this sort of these questions of, is that safe system or is that not? Like, no, we can't do that. It's not safe system. And then the debate that would happen. Yes, it is. It's not. And then people were like, they had genuine views that this was or it was not safe system. And we talked about that being, a ridiculous sort of question and debate in that binary sense. They should have been saying, well, how well does this align with safe system principles? And they might have actually had more agreement. They said, well, it's pretty good, but it's not, as good as it could be. And they both go, yeah, that I agree. All right, what can we do about it? And how can we make it a bit better? But so the idea that we can have some sort of consistent methodology that gives us some sort of results that people can look at and say, well, this is where we're at and this is what else we can do. I think that's pretty amazing, to take a philosophy and put it into a tool like this. So that's a real advantage. Great way to compare projects. And those of you that are road safety auditors, that we are told as auditors that our job is not to compare projects. We're just to identify safety deficiencies in the individual projects. So, but this is a great tool for that. And the graphs and the scores are really great comparative tools. Lots of information on design changes that will improve things. A method to assist planners and designers to move. This is awesome. Safe system approach from theory to practice. And it really is that idea that these executives, chief executives, ministers, they all sign up to this theory of the safe system. How can you not? But what does it mean on the ground? What does it mean in our actual projects and things that we're going to do, decisions we're making day to day? Well, it really translates that into practice. And it's a great basis for planning future projects. So let's go through some process guidance. We'll cover off a few things here. The first thing I reinforce, and I've said it before, but if this is your sort of project life cycle, we'll say, which is from the concept, draft, develop, the details of the project, develop the design and all of that, constructed, and then it's open to traffic, and traffic being, cyclists, pedestrians, motorcyclists, and vehicles. Don't think of it as just cars. You see there that there's a lot of push at that safe system assessment at these early stages, and then road safety audits sort of complementing and also should be referring back to this safe system assessment to check that we're still keeping those important elements. I think I mentioned earlier about the idea that if you're asked to do a safe system assessment at this stage, it's just eroded a lot of the value of it because fundamental changes in the scope are not being entertained when they are that far down the track of the development of the project. The differences, so I'm currently working on an update to the Austra's Guide to Road Safety Part 6, which is road safety audit, to integrate a lot more safe system thinking into it. And so a lot of these gaps or differences are actually going to close up. And that's good. We're still very much going to be acknowledging the importance of safe system assessments at that early stage. But what we're doing is trying to drag road safety auditing into a bit more safe system thinking. Not to say there wasn't a lot of good stuff in road safety audits for the last 25 years. Amazing stuff, actually. It's just that extra emphasis on severity of crashes and a little bit broader thinking in a few areas. Anyway, there's a comparative there, but the big ones really are severity of crashes. Safe system assessments just force you into that, as you're seeing when you're doing the matrix. Exposure, a lot more emphasis on exposure in a safe system assessment. And that real focus on fatal and serious in a safe system assessment, and less concern about property damage, minor incidents, which road safety audits tend to pick up a lot of, unless you're in Western Australia, which is slightly very different in road safety auditing, but that's another topic for another time. Also, these, post-crash care, maintenance, people aspects, so more a system view rather than that specific, just the pouring of concrete and putting up a barrier and the like. And the versatility of a safe system assessment, I think, should never go unlooked. I mean, a whole program. You can do, a whole public transport program. You could do a whole road safety program, active transport program. The whole program could be put through this method to see if there's enough focus on some different areas. That's the versatility of the tool. So when you're asked to do a safe system assessment or get involved in one, this is the way that usually plays out. So we've got, I'll call it the client. So, a road authority or the like, they determine whether they want one of two types of safe system assessment. Now, I'm using some Victorian terminology here, full or rapid. There's some jurisdictions popping up with their own terms. New South Wales is using full and rapid as well. Queensland uses light, I think, instead of rapid. A safe system assessment light, and I'm having a mental blank as to what South Australia has done. I think they've just used rapid as well. But anyway, basically, one as the names say, one's a bigger exercise, but they're not completely poles apart. Like still a rapid or a light has I would say 75% of the work of a full anyway. So it's not like we're majorly different here, but somebody needs to make that choice, full or rapid. And I will tell you shortly what the difference is in terms of what the scope of the task is. And then the team selected. So whether it's to go to a consultancy or go to another area within the department or the like. And then you have some sort of commencement meeting, some sort of discussion about the project, where you get everybody in the room or on Zoom or the like. And this is where you really get into that, understanding the context of the project, the scope, what's happening, why things are happening, and really getting clear in your mind as safe system assessors what you're actually assessing. So that's important. Then you get out there and inspect the site. And then you complete the matrix, which we went through last week. You consider these other elements of the safe system, the safer people, the vehicles, the speeds you probably got in the assessment matrix, the post-crash care, any maintenance implications and these sorts of things. You sort of factor all of these wider elements in. And then you identify treatment options, recommendations, considerations. We actually call them things to consider. Ideas for consideration, I think, is the actual term most jurisdictions use. They're a little reluctant to call them recommendations as such. Just the legal scaredness, I suppose, for lack of a better term, that they don't want an official report from experts that says you should do this, and then they don't do it because for one reason or another, and then will they be held legally liable down the track for not doing it? So they're being termed, ideas for consideration as a very sort of friendly way of recommending stuff. And then you write up your report, and there's a specific format to that report again, which we went through. But you're in a wonderful position now that the jurisdictions are basically providing templates, so you know what should be in the report, and everybody's doing the same thing, which is good. And then it's back to the client really to make these responses to any ideas, suggested changes, and whether or not they report that back to the Safe System Assessment team is up to them. And then they amend and design the project to incorporate those changes. Sometimes then at this point, they actually go back to you down to here and ask you to rescore what they've decided to actually change and do. So they can get that continual proof that they're getting better and better alignment with safe system principles. And then it just sort of feeds around again. So that's the process. And some of you are probably looking at that going, I'm pretty comfortable with that process because it looks very much the same as the process of a road safety audit. And that was very much intentional to make that process the same as road safety auditing, essentially, in terms of client commencement meeting, site inspection, assessment, and recommendations and changes. If there is no intention here, like, okay, we're not going to make any changes to this design, but we've got to tick this box that says we'll do a safe system assessment. Don't bother. Like, why would we do that? Why would we waste resources if there's no intention to improve things and the like? If you've got options on the table and you want to choose the one that has best alignment with safe system principles, yeah, sure, that's a good time to do it, even if you've got no intention to do any changes to any of the options once selected. But we do hope that people have a genuine desire to get better alignment with safe system principles. And then as soon as anything like this goes to a tick box exercise, just don't bother. Okay, Kathy.
A lot of questions, Ken. A lot of questions. You ready?
Yeah.
Is there a benefit of completing at a network level where updating transport policy and network plans so that we stop trying to put all modes on all corridors and make it more explicit when determining the movement and place category for a street?
Gee, that's a complicated question. I think it could significantly have some advantages, give a clear framework to operate under in sort of showing some of these benefits or challenges that exist. I think it would be a complex exercise and it'd need a lot of thinking about how you're going to do it. But what I'd suggest is play around with the safe system assessment framework a little bit on a small sort of pilot area in that thinking before you go, full scale into it. But happy to chat about that sort of stuff with anybody if they want.
Okay. Is it ever okay to review a site through captured video or street view, assuming the street view is up to date?
Well, so you'll see shortly.
You want me to answer that for you? Ken says no.
I would like to say no, but what I have to say is that technically a rapid or a light safe system assessment can be done without visiting the site, if you believe that you've got adequate information to make that general informed decision. One of the reasons, as I said, why we make you go to the site in this course is just to remind you of how much value it is to see that operation, how it works, what's going on out there, feel it, see it, hear it, smell it. Anyway, I just think you can't beat it. I think those that wrote the Austroads guide thought the same, and certainly the Vic Roads stuff, which we had a slight hand in, but there is that ability for a rapid safe system assessment to be done desktop with photos and Street View and those sorts of things.
In terms of wording, instead of recommend, should SSA reports state suggest or consider?
As I say, the templates, just use one of the templates, and they've written it as I think they say they're titled ideas for consideration.
Should an assessor expect to receive a document back with comments from the team and what they're going to do or not do?
It's nice. It's nice to get that, to see, you know, what's happened with the project. That's not really seen as a requirement. So it's similar to a road safety audit in that sense, that once you hand over your safe system assessment report, it's advice to the project team. You don't, as a safe system assessor, have like legislative power or anything like that. You're just sort of handing it over as an advice to hopefully help them improve their project. So it's up to them as to what they do with it. It's a good practice for them to send it back, and you're aware of that. And as I say, to do a final sort of safe system graph at the end of that to capture it all together works beautifully. And in fact, I suggest anybody running an infrastructure project does that last step, because if you want clear proof that you are doing the best job you can to align with safe system principles, what you have is an existing condition score. You have your original design score, which hopefully was a bit lower, and then you have your after safe system assessment score, which is even lower than that. And you go, well, that's what we started with, and then we pushed hard, and we got, you know, safe system assessment done, and we kept pushing, and this is what we've got down to. And everybody sort of says, that's excellent, great work. Yep.
Good. What if the changes didn't make it safer or a new issue came up?
Well, again, your score is going to show that. Your ideas for consideration or recommendations are going to try to address that, and you've highlighted it, and you give it to the project team. And again, we don't have any legislative power. We don't have the ability to force them to do something. We encourage all we can, and hopefully organisations have good enough systems in place that, you know, those sort of things are tabled at executive levels, and decisions need to be made on that. Certainly in Victoria, for any large project, the Project Review Committee demands to see that graph. They want to see that graph. And that's got to be part of the scope approval report. And if that number's going up, they're going to be asking questions. And they'll be asking questions even if it's going up in some of those specific categories. Say, well, you've got a small reduction in your score overall, but the cyclist score is going, you're doubling cyclist risk. Or, well, you're doubling the cyclist score. So you're moving it away from alignment with safe system principles. What? Go back, make it better for cyclists.
We had, this came up in the last session as well, about the independence. So as far as the SSA team goes, how independent does the team need to be? Can they be from the same company but different people than the designers?
Well, this is exactly the same question with road safety auditing, because, you know, we want an independent set of eyes and an independent, uninfluenced party doing the assessment. The fear with road safety auditing and safe system assessments is that there is conscious or unconscious bias, integrated into it. So, like road safety auditing, the lead safe system assessor has to be independent in most jurisdictions' guidelines. Certainly South Australia and Victoria are the ones that I'm talking about. And what is independent? Yeah, well, you need to be able to, I suppose, prove that you have not been influenced in any way. Now, I can argue both sides here. I can argue that if you're in, ABC consultancy that has 180,000 engineers across the world, I can argue that if you're not independent, because you got the same boss somewhere up the chain, and you're trying to make things as easy as possible for the project teams. But I can also argue it the other way to say that we have enough integrity and we understand the importance of saying it as it is, and it's your own professional integrity on the line if you were to compromise anything, and that the majority of people out there in these professional environments are excellent and take that responsibility very seriously. So I can argue both sides, but I mean, a lot of the time I'd say, well, why bother? Why not go to get somebody else, a whole different set of eyes on it? Anyway, so there you go. I answered without actually answering it.
No, I think you did. There was a follow-up question about, can the safe system assessor also be the road safety auditor, or is it best to get another set of eyes? And I think you've just said getting another set of eyes is always a good idea. No? Oh, no.
No, that was slightly different.
Okay.
I mean, you're right at one level. The road safety auditor can also do the safe system assessment if they've got all that. You can get some efficiencies that way, because that overlap in the Venn diagram I showed is sort of taken into account. So you can get some advantage from that, but you may elect to have two different views on it. Yeah. Okay. Any more, Kathy?
Yes, a couple more. Sorry. Just a comment here saying that sometimes from a consultant's perspective, clients sometimes allocate limited budget for doing safe system assessments, and that's why the site inspection is optioned out at times. But it's good to see that so many participants are here from road agencies. So I guess the more people that understand the process, they understand how it all works. Is there a list of it? Yeah. Oh, sorry.
I agree, and you got to shake your head at some of this stuff. They spent $500 million on a project, and they're arguing over a $500 site inspection. It's doesn't make a lot of sense, but once you're in the depths of the project, that's what it is. Anyway, carry on. Yep.
Is there a list of accredited safe system assessors, like with road safety auditors, in Victoria or around the countries?
What a great question. Okay.
Are you about to lead into that?
Yes. I was about to say I'm going to move on to lists of different accredited safe system assessors or the like. So
well done, Jessica. There's a nice little segue.
Yeah. But I will come back to more questions after I run through a bit of that. So there are a number of jurisdictions that are starting to put out registers, lists of safe system assessors. And so Victoria has one on the VicRoads website in the safe system engineering area. And they have a number of great resources on here. Well, they've got the Austroads framework, they've got the Victorian guidelines, they've got the template that you're using, the Victorian template for your thing, templates there. And then a bit further down, there's the actual list. But let me cover off a couple of things here. So, the list that they had, the list of recommended safe system assessors, recommended safe system. So this is what they've called it. They're not calling it a accreditation list or a pre-qualified list in Victoria. It's just recommended safe system assessors. So it's saying what you need to do is sort of express some interest in this to the safe system engineering team, and then come to some sort of training. So our training is the one that's listed here, or equivalent, crossed out equivalent. So, but ours has been the only one running. So everybody's been doing this one, but any others that are equivalent, then you need to actually get some experience doing safe system assessment. You need to go out and do a proper one. Inspection, workshop, or write-up. And then you actually submit your safe system assessment in, and they review it, provide comments back to you if they don't think it's up to scratch, and you can resubmit it, have another go, and then they put you onto this list here. There's also an FAQ document as well, but the list basically is just a PDF document that here's just took a snip of it. So you see lots of different people and their contact details, recommended safe system assessors, although they've got a typo in their thing. But anyway, that's South Australia's just published a list, and that has these are people that attended the last one we ran in South Australia, and the others that have attended a couple of the online ones, and so you just email in there to get added to the list by showing that you've attended this, successfully completed this course, and that's all that they're asking for in South Australia for pre-qualification. So they don't actually assess one of your safe system assessments. They trust that passing this course is sufficient. Queensland doesn't have a actual list. I'm chatting to the crew in there on a regular basis about whether or not they want to add it to maybe the road safety audit list as an extra column or a group, but at the moment there's no specific list. I suppose just having attended the course maybe is sufficient in their mind, and holding that certificate. Interestingly, Queensland's the most clear cut in terms of requirements to do safe system assessment. It is in the policy. It says we will do safe system assessment on infrastructure projects. Other jurisdictions are a little bit washier, a little bit around that, but it's clear it's in there for Queensland. Victoria's, when I say a little bit more wishy-washy, it's a guideline. It's in the guidelines, safe system assessment guidelines, and it talks about when they should happen. So it's not sort of listed as policy, but it's being sort of taken on as policy. But it's banded into TEC, total estimated cost of project, and whether or not you do a safe system assessment. So they've used, the size of the project as a proxy for, I suppose, risk. And so they're saying if your project's less than $2 million, you can do a rapid safe system assessment where you decide that actual formal safe system assessment is required. Okay, so $2 million to $5 million. Well, a full safe system assessment, if it's a complex project or significant risk of a fatal serious injury or something innovative out there, it could be a rapid one if it's low risk. If it's a repeat assessment, so we talked about, a full safe system assessment's been done and then there's a new design that's generated out of it and it goes back, well, that can be a rapid process. You don't need to revisit the site and the like. And for above 5 million, it's saying a full safe system assessment on all projects, and a rapid if something's already been done. So a few clarifying dot points under there. I'll let you read in your own time, but I will just cover off what the differences are between those full and safe system assessment in Victoria. And then I'll just touch on what some other jurisdictions are doing, because I haven't mentioned New South Wales, New Zealand, Tassie, Territory, Western Australia, and the like, and I'll just cover those off very, very briefly. So the difference between the full and the rapid is really, you can see the dot points out there, but the site inspection becomes an optional, and the consideration of other safe system pillars or elements. So it really comes down to producing those matrices and scoring them and coming up with recommendations. A little less reporting requirements in a full safe system. So again, get the template, and yeah, they're the main differences. So let me just run through some of those other jurisdictions. So New South Wales is actively doing safe system assessments, and there's a pool of people in New South Wales that have been sort of trained up to do safe system assessments. We've done some training up there, and got enough consultants up and running to be able to service a little bit of the demand. So the major projects coming out are now being more and more encouraged to do safe system assessments, and they're doing that. But it's not formalized anywhere. The Centre for Road Safety up there is actively pushing it every time they get a chance, but it hasn't been put into any policy, or they don't have any specific guidelines or the like. New Zealand, a bit the same. It's something that's encouraged, certainly in the safe system engineering workshop over there. There's a module on this. It doesn't go into as much detail as you've been through, but it gets people thinking about it. We're training up a lot of the NZTA people to understand the process. I don't think they'll be doing the assessments, but they at least know the value of it, how to do it, what should be done, so that then they're requiring it and demanding it as part of their projects, and hopefully the consultants will be providing that service if the resources don't exist in-house, which we all know they're too busy to actually do the assessments. So yeah, there'll be a big demand there. Tasmania's got an interest integrated into a couple of programs, still thinking about how it might become a bit more formalised. Tasmania tends to follow a lot of Victoria's guidelines and the like, so there's a lever there to sort of say that, well, this really applies to Tasmania, what I've got on screen and then the previous screen. Western Australia, completely different. They're not doing safe system assessments. They believe that their ROSMA, road safety management system, and the way they do road safety audits is sufficient. And I won't get into that debate. I think there's good aspects to that. I think that the process would add a lot of value, but that's the way that they've gone. Okay, so I'll just have a look here at any questions that might have come up.
So we're at, and I think you may have covered this off, but how do you get your
road controlling authority
to start incorporating safe system assessment into their projects? Would it be best to go through Waka Kotahi, which is NZTA or NZTA's Waka Kotahi, and push for their portion of funding is only provided if based on an SSA being completed, like a road safety audit?
Yes, I mean, I think we've got a lot of the levers that we can play with to do this. I think so. Waka Kotahi is very, and I apologise, I still say NZTA a bit. Is very committed to the safe system approach in some areas of the organisation, but as I said, I think Kathy, what do we train up, like 75 of them or something?
Yeah, and there's about that many more this year, and I think it's maybe they're a bit early in their journey,
but I think
they're getting on board.
Yeah, and the feedback from all of those participants and the excitement about including this as part of project requirements is big. So I think talking to the client, asking, are they aware of the process? And if they say no, say, have a chat around your area and, see if it's valuable and whether it's something you want to integrate in. So sort of slowly moving people along to understand that. And one of the things I think the Victorians did really well, and I suggested to a lot of the jurisdictions, is they said the safe system assessment at an early stage of a project is going to cover everything that a road safety audit will pick up and more. So we're not going to require the road safety audit at that stage. The audits will come later. So if you do a safe system assessment, you don't need to do a road safety audit, which immediately sort of shows that we're not just adding more red tape to your project just for the hell of it. We're trying to get the best value from these things. So they see that as a sort of easier way, and they go, oh, well, we're going to do something anyway. We might as well do this. So I think that's one, just sort of encouraging, talking about it, promoting the fact that you can do it, you can offer this, and that you've been to this course, and get yourself, like if you're a New Zealand consultant, for example, get yourself on that Victorian register, the South Australian register, whatever it is, promote it. Say, we can offer this service. We're about, improving road safety, implementing the safe system, and we want to assist all the projects out there to do this. Put it in your proposals as an optional extra. It's not going to be a huge amount extra in the cost of a thing. That it'll be safe system assessed. What an amazing little offering. So keep just sort of firing it in there, and the more and more people we get sort of to understand the process, using the process, able to do the process, the more and more it'll take off. So I do see I really got a vision where we're no longer doing feasibility audit, road safety audits and the like. We're doing safe system assessment. It's the first thing in a project, in that early stages. And it sets the platform then to do the road safety audits as you go.
Thoughts on when to do safe system assessment for smaller scale projects. So noting that the Victorian guidelines reference $2 million, council projects can be a much smaller dollar amount. Have you got any other ideas about which projects to choose rather than just based on dollars?
It's a really good point and question. And dollars are generally seen as, it's the easy way to sort of proxy whether these sorts of interventions are valuable. Again, a lot of road safety audit policies follow a similar thing with dollars, but in the new Austroads guide that we're working on, it's really going to move us more towards a risk-based decision-making methodology. When these local, what do I say? The local government projects, the value of the safe system assessment versus the cost of doing the safe system assessment becomes a bit of a challenge. So I encourage a lot of safe system assessing. These are the ones within council to do a safe system assessment of other council projects, do a rapid safe system assessment of it, and just be feeding that information back there. It becomes actually a wonderful supplement to your state bid for funding or your federal bid for funding. I mean, that you put in your bid for a intersection upgrade or whatever it is, and you back it up with a safe system assessment, and the Regional Roads Victoria or the DOT office is going to be pretty excited by that. Because that's what they want to see, that we're getting the best safe system alignment possible, and there's your proof. So you might use it for some of those, and I think people have got a generally good feel for what is a project that could have some high risk to it or could be done better, and what is pretty confident we're all pretty good. So if you're in that phase of knowing everything's going to be pretty good, and you're fairly confident with that, you might consider not doing it. You probably get some value out of it anyway, but you got to balance these things up. Yeah, I'm sort of, again, sort of skating around actually the answer with something clear and definitive on that. I do encourage local governments to have a road safety audit and safe system assessment policy. So this is that sort of waffling that I was doing, but put into a clear decision-making framework. So they know we are going to do assessments on these types of projects in these scenarios. So a bit of thinking. Now, in order to try to make life as easy as possible for local governments, in the last update to the Ostrich Guide to Road Safety Part 6, where it got split to 6 and 6A, in Part 6, we put in a template road safety audit and safe system assessment policy that a local government could pick up and just add their council name to and play around with it a little bit to help make that decision on when you would and wouldn't do it. The reason I like that, and it sits as much with road safety auditing as safe system assessments, is to that I do see a lot of councils that have a very random decisions as to when they're doing audits, when they're doing, which projects get through with no audits, which projects have audits, and it's the sort of same with safe system assessments as they grow. You see massive developments happening, accessing onto and they seem to slide through with nothing. Sometimes they do, and sometimes you get very small projects that have audits because the officer that's controlling it isn't passionate about this. So trying to get some consistency and transparency around when those decisions are made. Okay. Any other points come in there? No, it's looking pretty good.
A couple more, sorry.
Yep.
We had a comment about Queensland. All project assessment framework projects in Queensland require an SSA, and that needs to be signed off by the TMR Road Safety Manager. Just an FYI. In the New South Wales Safer Roads program, you can submit a proactive nomination, not based on crash history, with either an RSA or SSA supporting it. This has benefited rural councils with minimal crash clusters. Rapid full SSAs are conducted on all route review projects in the Safer Roads program. On more recently, major projects such as Princes Highway Upgrade Program. Supporting policy and guidelines for SSA are firmly on our radar, says Mark.
Yeah, that's great. And I think that the example there of the proactive approach for funding programs for local governments and utilising road safety audits, safe system assessments, rather than just looking for, trying to find that crash cluster, is a far more sophisticated and progressive road safety programming methodology. There is still this massive industry pull and thought that the only way you know that an area is high risk is if it's got a cluster of crashes. But crash history is one way to identify areas of risk. But we know now that there's so many ways we can do that, and we know that when we get down to starting to talk about 2 or 3 crashes, we're really not talking about there's inherent randomness that we're trying to deal with. It just could be a random occurrence that this has happened, and those are not necessarily actual crash patterns. So we need more sophisticated ways to do that. Safe system assessments one, the road safety audits are another, the use of a risk rating methodology like IRAP or ANRAM or IRR or whatever tool it is you decide to get that idea of risk. Really, we need to start doing that. Amazing sort of evaluations and reports on the latest sort of federal black spot programs showing some pretty bad stuff in terms of chasing areas with crash clusters, the statisticians are onto it, and a lot of these projects, they just go, well, regression to the mean was going to be the reason why you were getting crash reductions, rather than specifically your intervention. So if you've got a site like that, basically they're saying there, you got a site that's got 2 crashes or 3 crashes, we'll just leave it, and it's likely to go down to 2 or 1 or 0. Just from the statistical analysis of it, that's regression to the mean. So maybe it goes down to 1.1 or something. So this is where we're talking small numbers, and that's why I get very nervous when I see like the federal black spot program saying that it qualifies with 2 crashes at a location. Like, wow, how about we qualify it with some understanding of infrastructure risk and the ratings of those risks using some of the amazing tools available to us that I just mentioned. So that's good. It's certainly some exciting stuff happening in New South Wales there. Okay. What do we say, Kathy? A little stretch, fill up the water. And the last thing I want to do, apart from taking on any topics or questions and delving down any areas that people want to discuss, the last thing I want to do is just briefly touch on a series of road environments, and at a very high level talk about some of the things that can be done to get higher alignment with safe system principles, because when you finish this course, you will have done one mock safe system assessment on one specific road environment. But we're sort of giving you a certificate and saying, go do safe system assessments everywhere. And we want you to. We want you to do motorways. We want you to do local streets. We want you to do cycling paths, safe system assess everything. So just having a few ideas on the infrastructure treatments that might improve things, or areas that you might score things slightly differently. So really just a final sweep through a whole lot of road environments and a bit of a chat about some of the features. But we'll do it fairly quickly, and we'll probably get you out a little bit early so you've got time to actually have a look at that safe system assessment you've got to do before we can give you that certificate.
Sounds good, Ken. So how about we come back at 11:21 or in 2 minutes?
11:21 in Eastern Seaboard time.
Yeah, but 2 minutes.
2 minutes.
Okay.
More, and then we're done. Okay, where are we at here? Safe system road environments. Okay, just the last few slides. Just as I mentioned, we're going to go through residential environments, shopping strips, mixed-use arterials, low-volume rural roads, high-volume rural roads, high-volume outer suburban arterials, urban freeways, and urban highways. I think I'll do a little bit of getting you to write a few things in. Here we go. Typical residential street could be anywhere. And you see we've got obviously pedestrians in the area, accesses onto a main road of some description down here. Let's just do that little exercise you're quite good at. You get a lot of great stuff from this group. Just write in things that you would like to see changed, but tell me exposure, likelihood, or severity. So ideas to get better alignment with safe system principles in this environment, and exposure, likelihood, and severity. And I'm going to give away a prize. I'm going to write down a few things, and anybody who matches mine, they can get a prize. And again, mine will just be random ones. I'm not saying that they're the best. Okay, seeing some good stuff coming in here. So we've got, oh, wow. I love it. I love it. Good stuff. All right, let me read through a few of these and make some comments on it. Okay. Gemma's gone reduce volume, exposure, reduce speeds, severity, and yep, severity, and you could even almost put likelihood into reduced speeds as well, because we know that it reduces both likelihood and severity. And we'll give a prize there, Kathy, because one of them that I had was also reduce volume, but I had a little bit about how I wanted to reduce volume by exploring, can we close this off as a route entry? Is there other areas that people could access? Could we court ball this off and make it not a through route? So that's good. Low speeds there, absolutely. And we've got traffic calming at the end of the street from Joel, which again, traffic calming is one that I had. I didn't specify at the end of the street or throughout, but local area traffic management, traffic calming, there's things, infrastructure to bring those speeds down. So prize for Joel there. And then we've got lots of local area traffic management. Mark's got that in there, so you can have a prize as well with some specific local area traffic management choices in curb out stands, chicanes and the like. We've got some commentary around parking restrictions and influencing the likelihood. And this is an interesting one, parking restrictions. If we took out all the parking along here, we probably do get reductions in the likelihood because of the opening up of sightlines, but we may increase speeds to a level where we lose all of that gain, and we start to because the wider the road, the opener the road, the higher the speed, the through speeds can be. So if you're going to do it, you want to complement with local area traffic management and the like, so get that severity down and try and get the likelihood back down as well. So different signage schemes, reduction in the speed limit, absolutely, these are good. Speed cushions, and lots of different things there. Some ideas to beautify the area with landscaping, as well as doing some of these treatments, which I think is a lovely and smart idea. I suppose whether it's beautiful or not isn't really safe system particularly, but it's a great way to get a lot of our safe system outcomes by ensuring that's there. Okay, some ideas of trimming trees to get likelihood reduction down, turning it into cycling boulevards. That's a lovely idea. I was about to do a safe system snippet on cycling boulevards. That's yeah, have a Google of that if you're not sure what that exactly means. And lots of things, reducing speeds, making it one way. Again, an interesting one. So yeah, that and Joel's put that to likelihood, which is exactly right. We tend to put that to a likelihood. You're less likely to crash at these one way, unless you've got traffic volume predictions to how that would change the volume of traffic. You really just peg it to likelihood. And raised crossings, lots of good stuff there. And lighting as a likelihood. So really good stuff there. And I'm agreeing with all of that. And I think you've done really well there. Do remember to not only just think about the infrastructure and the like. We want to think holistically about the system, education, enforcement, post-crash care stuff. Now, I don't know whether there's anything in particular from a photo like this you can analyze, but don't just think about that one, roads and roadsides, think holistically. But yes, predominantly we're doing a lot of roads and roadside stuff. So well done. Awesome. Good grip. Fantastic grip. Here's one. I'll give a prize for the first person who can tell me where it is. Might be an advantage to a few people there. Yeah, I'm giving Mohammed a prize for outside Coles. It could be outside any Coles. Mark, well, I don't know. Yeah, I suppose I don't know Sydney terminology well enough to accept whether Bondi from Mark counts, or it has to be Bondi Junction specifically. But prize for Mark and a prize for Matt then for saying Bondi Junction in the Sydney area there. I won't do the same exercise with you, but these are the sort. Well, okay, some people are already starting to throw it in there. The idea of an area like this, and I love this photo just to say, what's our dominant road user? I mean, it's pedestrians, it's vulnerable road users, and you don't need sophisticated planning to tell you that. You can stand there for 2 minutes and you know what it is. Yes, there's buses going through there, but these sorts of areas, the speed of any vehicle, or even the access of any vehicle, has to be questioned. But then the speed of any vehicle in there should be so extremely low at all times of the day, and you know how you achieve that, you know, is case by case. But really, this is a place for people. There's no doubt about it, and we need to treat it accordingly. And if vehicles are going through there at anything more than 20 kilometres per hour, we've sort of failed in our way that we're achieving, you know, these sorts of things. So blocking it off the vehicles would be a good start. Buses are obviously going to need to go through there, but they can be going through there very, very slow. It's only a short section, and I don't necessarily see the need to give pedestrian, you know, create dedicated pedestrian crossing points, because it's so pedestrianised. It should be a free for all, and that makes it a better place feel rather than corralling. You know, people in these sorts of areas want to put up big pedestrian fencing and make them cross all at one point. Well, you've eroded the place value of these areas as when you do that. So, at a movement and place perspective, it's all places for people, and we should sort of treat it accordingly. And we're going to significantly reduce the severity and the likelihood with these big speed drops for vehicles through these areas.
A couple of comments that came in, Ken, about this one. The concrete bollards are interesting. Would they be an issue for a cyclist or e-scooter if they crashed into them?
Well, it's an interesting point. The speeds, again, your bikes and your e-scooters and the like, with some good traffic calming features, will be going at a speed, but maybe not super high speed. It could be a slight issue there, but I don't have a major concern when I factor in exposure, likelihood, and severity in these sorts of scenarios. In these sorts of scenarios, now putting that out, you know, very close to a cycleway or something like that would be a slightly different story.
What are your thoughts about the change of pavement type as a traffic calming measure, specifically around mixed use areas?
Yeah. Yep. No, I definitely like it, and we know it reduces likelihood, and there's certainly, you know, integrating different pavement surfaces with raised areas and the like, and we know we get some pretty good outcomes. Lots of good points in there. Yeah, it's interesting. Like, there's lots of debate to be had about some of this stuff. The idea of like whacking the pedestrians with jaywalking as such in these sorts of environments, I don't really think aligns too well with, you know, what we're trying to achieve. it's a highly permeable area to a major transport hub with lots of vibrance and activity. Pedestrians they can stop, and we should create the environment that it's safe for them to do what they're doing and what they will continue to do. And lots of intoxicated pedestrians and the kids and people running for their train and all sorts of craziness that happens. To try to address that at an individual behaviour level is we might get a tiny little bit of benefit, but making this getting vehicle speeds down below 20 kilometres per hour always through there, massive benefit. Anyway. Good stuff.
Sorry, just a couple more here. With the bollards, with SSAs, would you consider protection of pedestrians in relation to perhaps a terrorist-related car versus pedestrian issues?
Yeah, so I don't consider. So I separate terrorist acts, intentional acts, out of my safe system assessments because, you could, in theory, include that in. But I think it just sort of clouds some of the, everyday risks that present in our projects. And, we get these amazing anti-terrorist interventions where I don't think these are anti-terrorist bollards, by the way, but hypothetically if they were, you kind of would go, oh my god, like we're putting this sort of protection in where we're going to have way more people killed and seriously injured. All the risk sitting out here on the road is just poles apart from the idea of terrorist risk. But there's a paper I wrote 15 years ago now about risk perception in the road safety environment, and it's why is the public so scared of it, or takes that risk so seriously, see it as such a high risk, terrorism, when they don't see the risk out here in the same light, where it's actually the risk out here at a scientific level when you analyze the risk is way higher. And I do talk about it in terms of a lot of people refuse to get on an airplane to go Sydney to Melbourne because it's too risky in their mind, yet they drive it, and you go, that doesn't make any sense. Or why people's perception of risk and speed limits and the like. And it's a fascinating area to understand perception of risk, and it plays out so strongly in road safety. And there's these key factors. It actually came out of the work of a guy called Peter Sandman in the USA, and he was doing environmental risk management, and he essentially formulated this risk perception movement, really, which was, he was doing it all as to why at the time, back in the 70s or whatever this was, that the American public were fairly apathetic to the idea of smoking and the risks associated with smoking. But, when a few syringes wash up on Miami Beach, they go berserk. And, he's like, why do we have this sort of, when we analyze the risk as academics or as technical experts, it's one thing, but the public is just completely got a different perception of what the risk is. And so what he did was he added a thing called an outrage factor to risk. So risk equals probability times likelihood plus outrage. And then he listed, I think he had 18 outrage variables, and they're things like control. If you are driving and you will drive along the road, and you've got trees by the side of the road and it's windy or whatever it is, and you're driving and you drive at a certain speed and a certain way, you perceive that as one risk. put you in the passenger seat and put somebody else and they drive at the same speed in the same way and they've got the same driving skill level of you, you perceive it as higher risk. You're not so comfortable with this. And so control's a big one. Being familiar with the risk. Is this something that we see every day and it's there? As soon as you're familiar with it, you're sort of okay with it. Vulnerability is a big one, and that includes like children and the elderly and the like, and certainly kids are the prime example on that. I mean, risk perception of around schools for the public is huge, but when we calculate it. But so you've got to add this community, and we call it an outrage factor, but just really interesting, fascinating stuff. Individual versus collective risk is sort of combined into that. So again, we often analyze risk at a collective level, and then the individuals see it in their individual level, so they have a completely different perception of those sort of things. You can dig that paper out, actually, Kathy, and pop it into Moodle if people are interested and want to chat further about that.
Will do, Ken. Not to move you along. Sorry, I keep jumping in with questions, but we've also got a question here asking about impact of stopping sight-distant crests and the role that they play in an SSA. So maybe in your next example or the one after, I can't quite remember.
Not this one.
Not this one, no.
But I'll just answer it very quickly. It's going to predominantly be a likelihood factor. Stopping sight distance, will really be a likelihood factor. And now you might say, well, no, stopping sight distance includes a calculation on the idea that you've got enough time to see, react, brake, and stop before you hit the vehicle that's popped out. Or if you do maneuvering sight distance, you've got time to maneuver. So, but we would say the likelihood of the crash actually happening is less. You probably wouldn't factor in severity to that at all. Mixed use arterials. So this one's just a minefield, really. And again, a New South Wales road there, just as a nice example. But these are the kind of roads where we're just trying to prioritize everything. Like, it's vehicle priority, it's like traffic priority, pedestrian priority, public transport priority. It's a principal bike network. It's like, wow, we got everything going on here. So how do you sort of get the best safe system alignment, acknowledging all of that sort of challenging this, I sort of call that mixed use arterial. So how are we going on time here? I've got time to hear a few ideas from the group on this. How do we get this better aligned with safe system principles? I think this is 50 or 60 kilometres per hour. Probably Mark will be able to tell me that. It might have just changed in recent times, but it's Oxford Street, I'm pretty sure. Oh, wow. Coming in. Yeah. We've got some guesses on 60K, so yeah, I think yeah. Okay, seeing a few good ideas there. Got some people so Kev likes the mast arms on the traffic signals, which I would say are very much one of those likelihood reducers. Yeah, so in these routes where you get all of that mixed priority, the mixed use, I think the takeaway should be that we really need to prioritize the safety of the most vulnerable, and that's the reality of it. So vehicle speeds are going to have to be reduced. This may be more one where you get some specific crossing points, as there are, and you make them more attractive and slower speeds. I mean, for me, these sorts of areas raising these crossings, absolutely, like, just would be fundamental. You not only get the reduced speed at those specific conflict points, it works almost like local area traffic management to calm speeds through here. You could even separate the bus lane a bit and not raise it, so the buses can have their sort of free run without going up and down if they're very concerned, or maybe they just get a speed cushion or the like. But slowing vehicle speeds down to reduce that severity of crashes and the likelihood of crashes. Lots of ideas on separation of and providing facilities for bikes, pedestrian refuges to reduce the likelihood to stagger the crossing. The speed limits through here. Variable speed limits are, I think, a wonderful way to start in these mixed-use arterials to try to get people a bit more accustomed to the idea of lower speeds, and maybe you do it during times of most risk, and you go from there. But certainly, a lot of things can be done here. But the reality is that we have, for many, many decades, seen this as a traffic, pumping traffic through here was number one. We're really in a new field now where we say that what is one of many important things here, but we're not going to compromise the safety of other road users to get that little bit more efficiency. Now, our traffic operations friends might disagree, but I think we need to continue to have those discussions. And a safe system assessment is a pretty good, powerful tool to counter a SIDRA analysis or a traffic model that says, oh no, if we do that, it's going to add 0.3 of a second per vehicle per phase per this, and here's my 30-page report that says, we could go from a level of service B to a level of service C during 15 minutes of peak hour. You go, okay, well, can't argue with that. It's very good stuff. Here's the safe system assessment to say that we are, the scores are high and we can easily bring the scores down, and it's what we need to do. So we're starting to get some more concrete things to put on the table against some of those pretty comprehensive traffic reports that we see. Not easy discussions, and it's a continual thing for us to all work on. I do also like rest on red treatments in these sorts of areas. I mean, I think these lights would be wonderful during Friday night, Saturday night, maybe Thursday night in the wee hours of the morning, and real, times when there's not major, I mean, there probably is major traffic throughput here, but there really shouldn't be. And pedestrians are going to be more intoxicated, and all sorts of higher risk activities happening. So you drop your traffic signals to rest on red, and occasionally they drop to green, lets the car through, and back to red. So it becomes a complete identification that, hey, pedestrians and are intoxicated pedestrians are our priority here, and protecting them. Get a lot of anger from people, like, oh, why are we, they should not get drunk and wander around, all of those issues. But the reality is that's what happens. There's a lot of it, and we've got facilities to protect it, and it may take a little bit of time off a through journey in those times. But hey, I'm okay with that. Yes, so there isn't that much traffic in the image, is there, right in the middle of the day? So, okay, I think I've got to keep moving on. These are going to be some of our hardest roads to get safe system alignment because they're low volume, they're high speed, and they're long, a lot of them. And we can't afford the infrastructure to make these continue to be high speed without and with high alignment with safe system principles. And so how we do that is a massive challenge. I think we're going to have to start looking at the speeds of travel on these, and the public is not going to be happy. And so I think we need a long-term speed strategy to start to think about this. We need vehicle technology to take over. And in the interim, I think we look at a whole lot of likelihood factors. So unfortunately, probably the severity isn't going to be the first thing that we're going to be addressing in these. It's a real big push on likelihood. Ceiling shoulders, audio tactile, edge line, center line, trying to get a bit of a wide center line, maybe narrow the lanes down a bit to get a little bit of gap, isolated barriers and the like. Mobile point-to-point speed cameras, so that's certainly technology right there ready to go. But the idea that you could have a vehicle at one end that takes photo of the number plate and then 10 k's down the road another, and so at least we're bringing people within some speeds. I think sort of that dusk nighttime speed limit reduction should be something that we could start to step in with the public in. We know the risks are high around dusk and at night on the network. Basically, the volumes are lower, but the risk is there. And I think it's more understandable and palatable for the public to understand an 80k nighttime dusk speed limit. Yeah, a lot of practical elements that we've got to think about, but we need big work to reduce the likelihood. When you do your safe system assessments on these, they sometimes come out fairly low because the exposure is low, but you still got that likelihood and severity that you've got to work on. So some good ideas coming in there around things like enhanced delineation, more guideposts, better line marking. All these things are going to be good, but yeah, we've got a lot of challenges on these types of roads. When you get into higher volume roads, it doesn't look high volume because you can't see any vehicles on it, but trust me, it's higher volume. This is where we do want to start to see the continuous barrier systems, central barrier system, outer barrier systems, and we're pushing to reduce the severity of the crash. And we can keep high speeds because we know the severity outcomes are going to be really good for passenger vehicles, and they're the predominant run-off road head-on crash risk. So those, and then when you hit intersections, again, we're going to slow vehicles through these conflict points and these high-risk areas. Yeah, the really nice, clean, clear example, and it's so sort of symbolizing the whole thing is a roundabout. And then you've got your central barrier system, obviously, that continues on through there. And so all your access points from along here come in, they turn around that if they want to go the other way. You've got a slow point, beautiful U-turn, everything's nice. I'm sure some of you have been involved in these projects that, I can paint a nice, easy, logical picture. The practical realities of it are challenging. How far do you make them go before they turn around? What are the different, points can't afford different roundabouts of these areas? Yeah, this one's set up for a roundabout though, isn't it? Look at the property boundary. Anyway, thinking about the intersection, both the likelihood and severities are an important one. Lots of likelihood factors we can do in the interim. The side road activated speed limits, so having a speed limit on the main road and detectors up this road. So as a vehicle comes in, reduce the speed limit on the main road. So trying to reduce the severity and likelihood of crashes by targeting the bullet vehicle. We've spent all our time in road safety targeting the target vehicle, haven't we? So we're starting to acknowledge the bullet vehicle is something that we've got to now start to address. You don't ignore the target vehicle. Yeah, you want advanced warning signs, active advanced warning signs, stagger your T intersections, do all that wonderful stuff. But let's start looking at this vehicle that comes through here at 100, 110, 120 kilometers an hour. What can we do to start to address that one? Side road activated speed, so REORs, if you're in New Zealand, the rural intersection activated warning signs, what else? They're called different things in different states. Heap of them in Victoria now, lots in New Zealand, South Australia, love them. Don't know if we've got any yet in New South Wales. Probably another project on Mark's list. Keep him busy.
Quick question, Ken. What's better, in inverted commas, an offset T intersection or a roundabout?
Roundabout.
Okay, good. That was a quick answer. Well done. And just in your previous example, wouldn't barriers in that scenario increase likelihood of crashes for broken down vehicles or people stopping on the roadside?
Yeah. Yes. It will increase that a little bit, but the decreases you have for the others is it just swamps that. Now, but I won't. So I shouldn't. So the thing is that there is an example of risk perception, because I can calmly say that the risk of broken down vehicles being struck, anything like that, is minuscule compared to the risk of run off road into trees, power poles, culverts rolling over. It like completely different risk, and it was so much better as a society by rolling out that continuous barrier system. But that outrage factor that we talked about, it cannot be ignored. And the public go berserk when we do these long runs of barriers, a close offset to edge line, and provide no space for them to get off the road. So if they were to break down and then they feel vulnerable, and vulnerability, big risk perception factor, and they will go absolutely feral, as we've seen quite a few times.
Is it, sorry,
Yep.
Just thinking about that, is it because if somebody runs off the road, let's say they fell asleep or something along those lines, we can blame them as opposed to the person who's broken down and they're completely, okay.
But it's quite complicated in risk perception, because there's about 3 risk perception factors at play in that one: control, vulnerability, and anyway, So it's fascinating, but the thing is that, and I've made this mistake many times, is to ignore that outrage factor. And I go, no, we've analysed the risk, and this is what it is. Shut up with your concerns about that, because it's not a risk. But that's we can't do that. We can't. We have to acknowledge and accept that is a genuine risk in their mind, and we need to work and redesign to alleviate that perceived risk, or communicate, or whatever we're going to have to do.
Yeah, so commentary coming back saying, even people with nothing to do with their implementation, here are all the complaints. Is an offset T intersection better than a X intersection? Does that mean cross intersection? Yeah.
A cross intersection, yes. An offset T will give you a less likelihood of crashes. The reason I said roundabout just straight away was because offset Ts don't influence the severity of crashes. Your likelihood comes down because you don't get a see-through effect, and you don't. But an offset T does reduce your likelihood of crashes significantly, but severity, your bullet vehicle just the same. The angles are just the same, and the severity is very high. Roundabout slows everybody down, better angles. So wins every time. But cross intersections worse than offset Ts.
Okay. And have you got some papers or, I guess, studies we can see regarding motorcyclists and wire rope that that will help as well? Is there anything we can share there?
Yeah, so about 700 pages of transport of University of New South Wales, Raf Jabrietta and Bam Batch, who have spent a crazy amount of time writing on the topic, so we can send you some stuff. Make a note of that. I'll send that through.
Okay. How effective are rumble strips or audio tactile line markings approaching to intersections? Maybe we mean rumble strips.
Good, Kathy.
Did I get it right?
You did. So audio tactile edge lines, obviously on the edge line, and rumble strips go across the lane. Now, yes, I think the public sees calls a rumble strip either. Random bit of traffic engineering trivia for you, or road safety trivia for you. If you scour them into the road surface, the way they do in a lot of countries that get snow, because if you put blobs of paint above the surface and then you put your snowplow through, you rip all your blobs off. When you scour them in, they call them mumble strips. I think it's fascinating. Anyway, but aside, yes, effective on the approach to an intersection to alert drivers to the presence of an intersection, reduce the likelihood of crashes. Yeah, I did a study on approaches to level crossings using rumble strips across the pavement, and they showed to be effective in increasing alertness and speeds through the level crossing. So they are effective in the likelihood, because remember, the bullet vehicle is going to be the one that dictates the severity. So unless you're doing something on the bullet vehicle side, yeah, we're just really trying to deal with that overshoot crash. Hey,
okay. We're at time, and I need to show people something, and there's still some more terrific questions coming through, which I don't think we'll get to. So what I might do is, if you have any other questions at this stage, do type them in, and then we'll get Ken to write up some answers to it. And since he's smiling at me, so this is the fun part where I get to give you more. So quick, put all your questions in now.
Okay, I love it.
Yeah, okay. So pop your questions in, because there's some good ones coming in, which I don't think we can answer in 3 minutes or less. But I will also show you something. Sorry, Ken, do you have anything else to?
Nah, I do. I have about like 3 weeks worth of more stuff that I want to talk about, but we're going to have to close it up there.
All right. So get your Safe System Assessment report in by next Wednesday, and then Ken will spend some time probably late next week, early the week after, marking those. You do have one last quiz to do, which is in here, Module 6 quiz. I'm not sure if you can see this. I should make it a bit bigger. And then please give us some feedback on the program. So there's just a very short questionnaire down the bottom here, feedback and certificates. What will appear just under this section here is your certificate. So once you've completed all your quizzes and you've submitted all your assignments and they've been marked, then you'll be able to download your electronic copy of your certificate there. I will also post to you your hard copy, as well as all the prizes that everyone's won. And today was a big day for prizes. So well done, Ken. Any other questions?
Well, I just want to say thank you. You're one of the most active groups, and it's all great discussion. Take it on. Get out there and do safe system assessments. If you need help with them, get in contact. I'll send you examples, whatever you need to support you. We need these out there. We need you out there pushing projects to get better alignment with safe system principles. It's the only way we're going to improve the situation if we push for change. Change is not easy, and you are all now activated. You are some of Australia and New Zealand's most competent safe system assessors, because it's fairly new still and there's not a huge amount of them. So get out there and do them, and contact me if you need help. Thanks for all your help, Kathy, and get in contact if you've got any logistical questions. Good luck.
Thank you, Ken. You've given us lots to think about. We will be running the training again in May, so I'll send through some more details to you, Angela. No other questions? You didn't want to give Ken any other work to do? Come on, people. Make my day. All right. Any final slide? No wombats on any final slides. No, I don't think there was any more wombats. I think you just about hit the end of your presentation, didn't you?
Yeah, I was pretty much at the end. So no more wombats.
Okay. Sorry for going over time. Have a great weekend, everybody. Get in touch if you've got any questions. Thank you.
Bye.
Yeah. Bye.